Hello everyone, welcome to the BNI Early Birds Podcast based in Dubai. Today we have a treat for you. We have Mr. Thomas Pottenkulam here from AGX Auditing, who is a partner in one of the firms in Dubai who deals with auditing services. I am your host, Vedan Makhija, and let's dive right into the conversation with Mr. Thomas. So, Mr. Thomas, could you tell our viewers a little bit more about what you do and what is your role in the company?
Thank you, Vedan, for the introduction. So, I am Thomas. Like you said, I'm Thomas. I'm partner at AGX, one of the partners at AGX Auditing. We are a firm of chartered accountants based in Dubai. We've been here since 2013, but the partner in charge has been here since 1994. So, we have a long way going back as to from when we started. The team's about 30 people altogether, with offices in Dubai, Sharjah, and Abu Dhabi. We are listed with some of the free zones, with all the free zones in Dubai and some of the major banks. So we can cater to any requirements that you have in terms of auditing in UAE.
So could you tell our viewers what is auditing?
So we do financial audits. So if you ask me what is financial audits, in Dubai, mainly the DD companies, they don't really have audits done mandatorily. The reason why is that there's no enforcing authority which asks you to do an audit. But if you look at the Companies Act, the Companies Act stipulates that you have to do an audit every year. So you don't have a register of companies where you submit your reports to, but it has to be done as per the Companies Act. So if somebody comes to your office, some authorities would ask you for an audit report, you have to have it ready in spite of not having a requirement to have it submitted. So financial audits, we do mainly external financial audits. We do an independent valuation, review of your books of accounts, and see if your finances are in right place. And the figures that you report to the owners of the company are the right in terms of your revenue, expenses, and profits, where you stand with your balance sheet in terms of your receivables, payables, to sum up a few of what we look into.
So now recently, Dubai has introduced an income tax for corporations. So I'm guessing they would have to have a lot of audits in place. How does that affect your business, and what have you all done to cater to that market?
So that's one big step that UAE has taken at the moment with the introduction of corporate taxes. The taxes are to be paid on your profits. So the first thing that you need to do is ensure that the profits are correct. And for your profits to be correct, you have to look into every single detail of your finances. So an audit will ensure that the profits are correct. And based on these profits is what you pay your taxes on. We have been helping a lot of clients with their audits even before the corporate taxes were introduced. Now with the taxes in picture, it is more in detail. So when I say it's more in detail, we check on. So earlier, if we used to do a 50% verification of records, we have to do a 70% or 90% in cases where we have or where we suspect that things could be wrong. And then based on the verification, we report the profits to the owners, and based on these profits, you pay taxes to the government.
So keeping the legal aspect of it aside, how does an audit help the company owner versus him keeping his chart of accounts himself?
Okay, so what happens is when, as an owner of the company, you have to concentrate on how you improve your business more on the operation side of it. So finance is something which has to be done by somebody who's an expert in that area. So since we have a varied exposure, we have an exposure in all the different industries in the market. So we know what is the best practices followed by these people, and also like you said, the chart of accounts. So if you have expenses which sometimes has to be classified as a direct expense, you probably would be classifying it as a non-direct expense. So this could affect your gross profit versus if it had been done otherwise. So I would say a chart of accounts is very important. Get it done properly on a software, get it audited. So when you have your accounts done properly, and if it's been audited, then you have a better picture of the company. And from an owner's perspective, when you know that for you to take the right decisions, you have to get the right information. And for that, like I said, again, audit is very mandatory. In Dubai, generally, there's a lot of labor turnover. So if you look at the company, the finance department, you have people changing pretty much once or twice in a year from the finance team. So if you have a big team of, say, 10 people working in a finance team, you will have probably one person changing or two of them changing once in a year. So when people change, if you don't have a check on what has been done earlier, and you don't set the right practices that the next person has to take up after this, it it could defeat the whole purpose of having in finance department with all the procedures that you have. So in such cases, we recommend to do an audit, and we also do it in not necessarily once in a year. We have clients where we check on a monthly basis. We do our audits on a monthly basis. If the volume is very huge. In some cases, we do quarterly, half yearly, and yearly also. So when you have it done more frequently, and we call it interim audit. So when you have it done more frequently, there's a better control over the entire aspects of the finance, and the decisions can be taken the right way. So decision can be about how you want to start a new vertical in the company, or you want to close one vertical which is loss making, or hiring new employees, or getting into a totally different aspect of business that you've never looked into. So it is very important that you do this with the right kind of person.
So what I'm getting from you is that this is very useful for larger corporations who have this. What I was thinking was small to medium-sized enterprises in Dubai, which Dubai is now becoming an entrepreneurial hub of the world. Smaller businesses can actually use your audit for fundraising as well, because if you go to a bank, they would also require a service like this. So how do you cater to that demographic?
Yeah, absolutely. So most of the banks would prefer an auditor who's listed with them as an approved auditor. So there's a listing which has been done for many years from now. So we are one of the listed approved auditors with some of the major banks in UAE. So what happens is, in such cases, you need to ensure that the cash flows are probably managed the right way. So you have enough monies out of your operating activities, which even if in spite of losses, if you have losses also, if you have amounts generated from operating activity, you still can have chances of getting finances from the bank, because you basically buy something, you sell something on a profit. That's the basic principle of a company. You can have losses from depreciation, but that's a non-operating expense. So you can always justify saying that, okay, listen, I'm making money out of it, but I will have better prospects in the future by which you can get more bank finance. So these are the ways that we can help clients to look into their finances, probably tweak on certain aspects that they do in the company to manage the cash flows, manage your payables, get your receivables earlier into the company, get the money into the company earlier. So all of this, if this can be managed the right way, you have a better chance of getting finances, because Dubai is, like you said, Dubai is mostly about small and medium-sized entities. So for them, they wouldn't really have the expertise unless they know the different industries that they work with. We having that experience can help a lot with the clients help the clients that way.
Yeah. So you mentioned depreciation in your last answer. So the depreciation, a lot of businesses, and I've been in touch with a few small and medium-sized enterprises, have not actually kept their books to factor for depreciation because there was no regulatory authority you have to file these documents with and pay a tax on.
Yeah.
So now a lot of these industries are actually going back and backdating their books. How can an audit help them with this, and how can you provide advice to these small, medium-sized enterprises on what is coming next so they can be better prepared for the future?
Yeah, so depreciation is a business expense because it was always managed as a small and medium-sized entity. The owner wouldn't have thought of it. But now, so if you have a property, you have a building, you have a labor accommodation, all these stuff, if you've not depreciated, you ideally should depreciate it over the useful life. Now, what is useful life is the best judgment of the auditor and the management themselves. So if they see that I can have a business expense, a capital expense like office partitions or office fit out lasts for 10 years, we depreciate over 10 years. But if you think it's a fit out which can only last for 5 years, we do it over 5 years. But there's also a general standard which is used worldwide. So for example, for cars are normally depreciated over 20%, so 5 years. So these are the stuff that we also have to look into. So if you've not depreciated the cars you probably got it in 2020, but now since you have taxes from 2023, depreciated from 2020 until 2023, and 2024 you have a WTV, which is the written down value, which you depreciate so that you have the books done the right way.
So at AGX Consultants, AGX Auditors, what I'm gathering is you not only audit the financials and tell them if they're doing something right, you're also telling them what to do and what is the future like, and how to depreciate assets to actually not only save you money but also be on the right side of the law.
That's right. So depreciation is one such expense. Another one is for tax purposes. Now, if you look at entertainment expenses, you take your employees out for an entertainment expense, like for a dinner or for a day out or something. You get only 50% eligible as tax deductible expenses. So that's one example. Another one is any penalties that you've paid. If you've paid any fines or penalties, all these are not allowed as expenses for tax purposes. So what we can advise is the expenses that you have to have in your books, because you need to know what your book profits are, and or versus what is your tax profits. So certain of these expenses have to be added back. Like I said, if any provisions do you have, if you've made any provisions, these provisions have to be added back. Any sort of penalties has to be added back. Entertainment expense, if you've spent 100,000 dirhams, only 50,000 is what you get as an expense for tax purposes. So we can advise on what is the best procedure or what is the best practice, and how you calculate your book profit versus your tax profits. So when I say book profits versus tax profits, you are accounting all your expenses, but certain of these expenses are not allowed for tax purposes. So these are the differences that you have to have, and you pay your taxes accordingly.
So these audits, every country has different standards. Like USA has GAAP, India has a different set of accounting standards. The audit generated by AGX auditors, which countries can it be used in, and which countries would love to have an audit statement, and which countries would like to have it as a mandatory for any sort of business activity?
So we in UAE have been following IFRS, International Financial Reporting Standards, because that's been mandated by the UAE tax laws. So we also serve certain clients in US. So in such cases, we also do a GAAP audit. So we report in GAAP accordingly, which is generally accepted accounting principles. But generally, we use IFRS, and IFRS is accepted worldwide. And like I said, if you have another standard which has to be used, this is reported differently. But otherwise, IFRS worldwide, so the reports are accepted worldwide in most of the countries, I would say.
And the audit from AGX Group will not only help the small and medium enterprises in UAE, what you're saying is it will even help them worldwide. So then even like a bigger magazine, for example, would be comfortable publishing their financials, and even make the UAE stock market a lot better, because you can actually have audited financial statements on there, which is a mandatory for all these financial terms.
That's right. So like I said, IFRS we cover, which is the International Financial Reporting Standards. Since we report as per IFRS, it can be used worldwide.
So with all these financial markets and us talking about the role of audits in shareholdings and different financial classifications, how does it help boost stakeholder confidence?
Yeah, so stakeholders would like to know where they stand in terms of their finances, and for them to have the confidence, they need to ensure that the team is working efficiently. So the team has done their part correctly, the finances have been recorded correctly. So what we check is, we check every single aspect of it, and we ensure that the financials have been reported to them accurately. So the management, the owners, the stakeholders are free from looking into what has been spent, how is it been spent. I mean, they would want to know that, but then they will have an added confidence if they know that somebody who's an external guy, who's independent of the company, has looked into every single detail. So we are independent in terms of the owners or the employees of the company. So we can give a very unbiased report on what we've checked. So that's how auditors can give confidence to the stakeholders of the company.
And with the stakeholders, what are the compliance like? As you as auditors would have to go through a lot of loopholes and a lot of data just to make one audit for a company. So what is that compliance framework like?
Compliance framework, so we have in UAE, if you look at UAE, we have to look at the VAT aspect, which has been introduced since 2018. There's something called economic substance reporting. There's also so if you, depending on the licensing authority that you work with, so in certain cases, if you are registered with the Securities and Commodities Authority, that's a different aspect by itself. So there are various aspects that we need to look into. So we generally do that depending on the licensing authority that you're registered with, and that's how we work with the clients.
So perfect. So this was my chat with Mr. Thomas from AGX Auditors. We have barely scratched the surface on this podcast. So you can give him a call, or you can visit his website, AGX Auditors. And thank you so much for bearing with us on the BNI podcast. We will be bringing you a series of podcasts throughout the month. We hope you'll stay tuned. So please subscribe to our channel as well, give us gain, and we will see you in the next one.
Thank you, Vedant.
Thanks.